Hello, everybody. Welcome into Primetime Pregame. I'm Katie Mox. Hope you enjoyed the weekend slate of games. Time now to shift to a whole new week with new opportunities to make some money. Of course, we're going to hit on a little NBA, but mostly the biggest game of the night, the Cowboys taking on the Raiders. That's right. The pressure, playoff pressure actually, is cranked all the way up tonight. Monday Night Football. Dallas comes off a bye in a must-win mode with Dak dealing with a revamped defense, while the Raiders limp in with some major quarterback questions, but a rising star in Brock Bowers. Two proud franchises, both desperate here, both a little bit banged up, and both fighting to keep their postseason hopes alive. And time now, we will welcome in insider for CBS for the Cowboys, Garrett Podell, who is live from Allegiant Stadium. And I will say, I don't think the Raiders have a prayer of getting in the playoffs, but we're trying to build the hype here, Garrett, okay? We're trying to make it big for both of these teams. Let's break down this game right now, and this one feels personal for Brian Schottenheimer, right? Going up against his coaching mentor tonight. He learned his entire offensive identity under Pete Carroll. Now he's trying to crack that same cover three system that he once helped design. How does he do it?
Hey, Katie, great to talk to you from Allegiant Stadium. And I think the best way for him to do that tonight is to simply pick on the corner who isn't covering, who isn't Eric Stokes, excuse me. So Eric Stokes, he came over from the Packers this offseason for the Raiders. He's been the 8th lowest targeted corner because of how well he's performed in coverage for Vegas this season. And so whichever one of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens isn't being covered by Stokes, I would imagine that Dak Prescott's going to look that wide receiver's way and or Jake Ferguson over the middle of the field to kind of really break open and stress that cover three defense that Pete Carroll's going to want to run. And Brian Schottenheimer said Pete Carroll really helped him mold and shape the way he views his position as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And he said back in the early 2020s when he was Carroll's OC in Seattle, he said Pete kind of changed his offensive identity by saying, look at what Sean McVay's doing with the LA Rams. Look at what Kyle Shanahan's doing with the San Francisco 49ers. I want some more of that running, outside zone scheme, blocking, play action, motion at the snap, all those things. And that's really helped shape Brian Schottenheimer's vision in Dallas as a top 5 offense with him calling the plays here in Dallas. 29.4 points per game, 4th best in football.
4th best in football. Garrett, Dallas opened the season dropping 40 burgers on teams, but the last couple of weeks have been a mess. Just 41 total points. Dak getting hit 29 times within that stretch, and the run game seems to have completely stalled out. How do the Cowboys get their offense back on track tonight against the Raiders?
It's a great question, Katie, and that's kind of the question I asked Brian Schottenheimer this week out at practice, and he kind of talked about the offensive inefficiency going back to, it's cliche, but complimentary football. In their losses against the Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos in weeks 8 and 9, they were down in some very big holes very quickly. Against Denver, all of a sudden it went from a very close game to 27-10 just before halftime of that game. And that kind of took them out of their rhythm of being able to run the ball with Javonte Williams, run play action, because they became predictable from a play calling perspective, needing to call pass. Kind of same deal against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona scored a touchdown in 3 plays at the start of the 3rd quarter in Dallas in their last game played, and that put them down in a 17-point hole. And the closest they were able to get the rest of the night there was 10. And so Brian Schottenheimer is looking for better first down efficiency from both his offense and his defense so that he and defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus can be a little less predictable based on the score and down and distance situation from a play calling perspective.
That's the one thing you don't want your offense to be, is predictable. So hopefully they get that worked out tonight. DeMarvion Overshown finally makes his season debut tonight, and Dallas expects really a jolt from him, right? This is an 87 tackle, 5 sack playmaker who says his knee is stronger than strong. How big of an impact can he make right away in prime time?
I think he can make a pretty sizable impact, Katie. Now, he will be on a snap count, although when talking to him on Friday at practice, Overshown said, yeah, I know Brian Schottenheimer set him on a pitch count, but if it's a clutch time at the end of the game, Overshown said, I'm going to be out there. So he plans to make an impact, and I think it's going to be sizable because of the explosive athleticism he has. You mentioned he said he feels as good as ever. He said he could pull out the GPS tracking testing numbers from when he's running around in practice, showing he can run faster, jump higher. I'm better than ever before post his 2nd ACL reconstruction of his NFL career. And I've been able to watch him in practice the last few weeks, and he is moving pretty fluidly. So I would expect massive impact from a player that just a year ago, Micah Parsons, when he was his teammate, said this is a future All-Pro.
All right, good to see that. Let's talk about this defense on that side of it. It feels like they're kind of in a get-right mode right now, in a defensive reset. They've added some pieces. They're getting back Overshown, as we just talked about. And this one feels like a matchup where they can show some real improvement against a struggling Raiders offense. What does this defense need to do to finally clean things up?
I think exactly what you said, which is really get the new pieces integrated into the scheme. Quinnen Williams, the all-pro defensive tackle they traded for from the New York Jets, he's the big ticket acquisition here, and he's actually been #1 in the NFL in run stop rate, according to Pro Football Focus. 15.1% of his run snaps in which he's beating his blocker and stopping the run in under 3 yards. So they're looking for him to really make a big impact tonight against Ashton, Jeanty. And then, I mean, even plugging in veteran Logan Wilson, who they traded a 7th-round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals to acquire. I mean, that marginal upgrade from Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn, who were a little out of position in pass coverage a lot, and even some on their run fits, to Overshown and Wilson, I think that's going to make a big impact, as well as a 3rd-round rookie corner, Shavon Revel. He was looked at as a potential 1st-round talent before tearing his ACL at East Carolina last fall, and he's going to be back and making his NFL debut tonight. Brian Schottenheimer said what stands out about him is his speed and his press man coverage ability. He said it's been fun watching him go up against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in practice the last few weeks. And Revel himself said on Friday, I mean, you can't do much better than that when it comes to preparing for NFL football. He'll also be on a pitch count tonight, but they're excited for what he can bring to their secondary with Trayvon Diggs still on injured reserve.
Well, Garrett, you brought up Ashton Jeanty already. There's really only 2 people that they have to worry about on the Raiders, and that's, you got to get physical with Brock Bowers, let Quinnen Williams anchor the front against Jeanty, and hope that Geno can blow things up here and you could disrupt his timing. How well do you think that the Cowboys defense matches up with what the Raiders can do offensively?
I actually think from a schematic perspective, even though a lot of people have complained about defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus's heavy zone coverage scheme, they run it zone about 79% of the time, 8th highest rate in the NFL, which it hasn't quite jived as well with the personnel here in Dallas that was used to running man coverage at a top 5 rate under Dan Quinn and then a top 10 rate under Mike Zimmer. But it's a good matchup against Bowers because 32% of his routes or targets have come against man coverage. And he's been really efficient catching the ball against man coverage this season. But that's not what Eberflus wants to do. As I just mentioned, he wants to play zone. So that kind of schematic matchup really goes in Dallas's favor in terms of the looks to take away Bowers. And then with Jeanty, I mean, that's just going to come down to, I think, a lot of 5-man defensive fronts, which means 5 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage. And that's not a traditional look. Usually we're talking 3-4, 4-3. But with Quinnen Williams now in the fold, with 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Kenny Clark and defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa, the Cowboys going to look to use 5 defensive linemen on the field all at the same time to get that trio of high-priced defensive tackles on the field a lot together, as well as a few other different formations. But I think we're going to see a lot more 5-down defensive linemen in an effort to slow down Jeanty. And like you said, he hasn't really been efficient, even though he's got 7 touchdowns. He's had 4 yards or fewer per carry average the last 4 weeks. So this is certainly a potential get-right game for Dallas's defense.
All right, we'll have to, well, we don't have that much time to wait to see if they do get right tonight. Thank you so much to Garrett. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the game and your time at Allegiant Stadium. Tonight on CBS Sports HQ, we'll have full coverage of Monday Night Football, live updates, expert picks, betting angles, and every key storyline that you need for this Cowboys and Raiders. We are breaking down the matchups, impact players, and everything you need to know, not just for this game, for every game of the NFL season. News, highlights, scores, it's all here on HQ. And up next, we're heading into the prop shop for Monday Night Football. We got prop stars and Zach Semeny locked and loaded, ready to show you where the real value is in the player prop market. Don't go anywhere. We're breaking it down next.